Hello and welcome. Intel has always been doing something interesting in the Indian market and for that matter the global technology stage. We're here joined by Kumud Srinivasan, President of Intel in India, who's just recently taken over. We just had a conversation about how technology can be used to drive mobile businesses or the new frontiers in mobile businesses. But we're going to come to that in a moment. Kumud, thank you so much for joining us. So you've recently taken over at Intel in India, and how do you survey the landscape as you stand today or from your position?
Well, so I think this is a very exciting time for me to be in India. India is going through a very rapid digitization. There's such an explosion of technology globally, but even more so in emerging market countries like India. And to be a part of it, to see how Intel can actually contribute and accelerate this phenomenon, and for me to steer it and influence it, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to actually contributing to the community that I was born and raised in. I was born and raised here in India. I'm returning after 30 plus years, and I see in my position a great opportunity to grow and also to give back to the community through things, movements like that are focused on digital literacy especially of women, underprivileged women, digital literacy of girls. So those are some of the causes that I'm looking into.
Sounds interesting. So what are the broad trends that you're seeing on the consumption side, both consumer as well as enterprise at this point of time?
Well, so certainly an explosion of devices, especially of mobile devices. We are beginning to see devices that are across the entire spectrum, from feature phones, and then we are slowly getting high-end feature phones, we are getting value smartphones, and then also India is beginning to see some high-end smartphones do quite well, right? And then there is tablets, and the very exciting trend that we are seeing in tablets, and the way new users are coming into the market through essentially the use of tablets. Ultrabooks is something that we in Intel are looking forward to seeing that grow in the India market. And then all of this is driving an increase in capacity for servers, right, in the cloud and data centers, and that too we are looking forward to seeing in India. We are already beginning to see that, but much more so as handheld devices increase across the spectrum.
So is India growing differently or faster than some of the other economies in the region or other parts of the world?
I think
big Intel markets.
Yeah. So, I think in emerging markets, we are seeing devices, especially at the lower end of the spectrum, increase. But then slowly, the market is also beginning to go towards the higher end devices, like high-end smartphones. Tablets, I think we are in emerging markets, we have seen a very rapid explosion of tablets. So, quite a bit of commonality with mature markets, but some differences.
So what are the kind of challenges that you face? I mean, is it for instance faster computers or computing capability, or is it price, particularly at this point of time?
It's really across the entire spectrum. So it's
I'm
price.
talking about consumers now. I mean,
yeah, right. It's price on the low end. Like low end feature phones, certainly price is the biggest factor. As you start moving up the spectrum, power becomes a bigger factor. Power efficiency becomes a very important factor. So today, Intel's roadmap is actually positioning us to play in all of those market segments.
Right. So when you say power, you mean is there a way to stop my smartphone from dying at 3 p.m.?
And that's the power efficiency, right? Longer and longer battery life. Yeah, that's that and price. And then when I say power, I mean the ability to be able to actually take on richer and richer applications at very fast speeds. That's what I mean by power.
Right. So you're a brand that's always inside, as the name says. But you're also increasingly, for instance, in the case of Ultrabooks, it's also a brand that seems to be riding alongside the mother brand or the Ultrabook brand, as the case may be. What's the strategy here?
So the strategy is actually for us to, we are not into the device business, but we are putting out reference design specs that we give to OEMs and ODMs. And in the case of Ultrabooks, if the innovation lags beyond a level where we think it should be, we will push the market through reference design specs. That's what we did with Ultrabooks. We created that whole category, and then we worked with OEMs and ODMs to actually come out with designs that supported our reference design specs. And now, if you look at CES 2013 and you look at the kind of innovation that we saw over there, the different form factors, the convertibles, the detachables, now we've got an explosion of innovation across form factors, and that's really what we want to see.
Right. So you talked about some of the efforts that you're doing on your own. I mean, you talked about digital literacy for women, but a slightly more broader question there. What are the kind of opportunities you see that, or challenges that you see that computing can fix, or computing power can fix in a country like India?
Well, IT is a great equalizer. If done right, it can also result in growth that is very inclusive, right? It empowers, it results in transparency. If you look at movements like Arab Spring, it's IT that's been behind that, right? In countries like ours, it can result in the kind of transparency that the country seems to be wanting, the citizens seem to be wanting more and more of. And if done right, it can also, as I said, be inclusive. But it has to be done right, otherwise it can result in a digital divide. So we are collaborating with the government to essentially make the citizens digital literate. The goal that we have, the goal that we have in this collaboration with the government of having one digitally literate person per household by 2020 is a great step in that direction. That, coupled with increased connectivity, the National Optic Fiber Network, getting that to 250,000 panchayats this year, continuing those kinds of trends, we will create a country that is digitally literate and trained and ready to take advantage of this connectivity so that we can have a growth that is very inclusive.
Right. So last question, computing, I mean, I remember meeting someone from Intel many years ago, and they said that, even in tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities, people want the fastest computers, right? Now you're at i7 now, and I'm sure you're going to announce something very soon. What's happening on that front? What are the trends that we are seeing in terms of power and efficiency and so on?
Well, Moore's law, okay, if you look at the way we've been able to continue to pursue Moore's law, we don't see an end in sight. So for us, we have a very rich roadmap ahead. We have a process technology lead, that is essentially one and, increasingly more than that, generations ahead of our competitors. We basically are looking at a roadmap that will enable us to compete very effectively, whether across all ends, we call it the compute continuum, whether it's the server at the top end or it's the handheld device, including the feature phone at the low end. And as well as embedded devices, we see ourselves being able to compete across all of those market segments.
So last question, so any targets for the coming year in terms of what you want to do in India?
Well, so, I am taking this position on at a very, fortuitous time. My predecessor left the organization at a very healthy state. The engineering organization in Intel India enjoys a level of credibility inside Intel that is very, very high. So my opportunity is to take this engineering muscle that we have in India, which is significant, and see how I can apply it to actually the India market challenges. And that might be fairly unique, But that's the challenge that we want to take on and understand better.
Right. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.